And if I'm walking around and there is something that I see, I will give some verbal cues, see if it catches people. If it seems like it isn't, then I can make an ask to give some additional support for everyone to say yes or no to. Let's see. We've got just a few more minutes here, or another probably 2 minutes. Most people are signed in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, there might be 1 or 2 more people popping through. Tomorrow, there's only one class. Alyssa is teaching 10:30 a.m. yoga. I don't know if that's an hour or 75 minutes. I don't know if that's virtual, but there is a class at 10:30 with Alyssa tomorrow. So the community hour class is also canceled for tomorrow. That is Tuesdays and Thursday mornings at 6:30 a.m. for the new teacher trainees. Actually, they're not trainees anymore, for the new teachers who've just graduated in the past couple of weeks. So sliding scale, $5 to $10, opportunity to come in and practice with some new teachers who are fresh from the program, people you may have been practicing beside and for the past year and not knowing it. An opportunity for very early yoga if you're a very early yoga person. I'm not. I had a 7 a.m. class once for about a year and a half, and that was a struggle. I can go to bed at 9 a.m., I can go to bed at 1 a.m. and still just sit there and wait for my body to actually want to fall asleep. So some very tired Monday mornings in my past. Oh, no, inside timer, what are we doing here? So I mentioned some things that I'm working toward today with class. As always, I'm not wedded to it as the only thing. Are there wants or needs that people have for their mind or body today in the yoga practice? All right. We're generally going to hit a little bit of everything, so that's always the case. This class, though, is a little bit more playing, maybe. It's built a little bit more around peak pose, but I do want to make sure that we get a little bit of everything in always for those as well. So welcome, everybody. We're probably good to get started. Anyone else that pops through, I'll get them their stuff. Hello to everybody online, watching currently or watching later. Find your comfortable seat, whatever that happens to look like. For some of you who've been seated cross-legged for a bit, it might look like switching the cross of the legs. You might have noticed some things feeling a little uneven after settling, and so make any adjustments that feel right for you with your practice. And you can let the hands rest wherever they might. Let the shoulders get heavy. You can allow the eyelids to get heavy, or your gaze to be soft and unfocused. Gesundheit back there. And just take in nice full breath. Feel the belly expand. Feel how that also wants to expand and lift the chest and lift the shoulders and getting bigger on the mat. And can you try to maintain that expansion even as the body wants to contract and release all of the air that's been drawn in? We'll do this a couple more times here. Each of those exhales, even as you stay big, an opportunity to release any distractions, any tension, whether that is physical or psychological. And as we bring our breath into focus, how does the body sort of reorient around the changing of the breath? And this exploration of noticing bigness, of noticing size on your mat with just the expansive capacity is very much in line with the question I asked on Monday and a question that I'm asking everyone to just consider for yourself about why we sometimes make ourselves smaller, or why we sometimes make ourselves more or too flexible. And that isn't just about a physical question, it certainly is. That's why it's those two words that I'm using here at the beginning of the practice. But we oftentimes do those things for reasons that aren't in service to us. And questions like this are reasons why yoga is my therapy. When I'm not teaching yoga, I am in an office doing therapy with clients. And so this question comes up a lot in a lot of different ways. There'll be times throughout the practice, and always throughout our practices, but certainly today, where I will be asking you to make yourself smaller. And if that is right for you, you are welcome to follow through with it. There are plenty of things you can still do with these poses without going quite that far. And we can also get to a place where we make ourselves too flexible, where it makes us unstable in our poses, it makes us too loose in our lives. And no judgment with those words, just statements. And so if it doesn't feel right to move in some of the ways, then you have all the permission in the world to make this your practice and to listen to yourself in this moment. And as we are about to get started, one final reminder of that as we bring our hands to heart center in Anjali Mudra, a mudra or an intention of self-reverence. But even noticing as we bring our hands together, do we start to curl in forward? Are we already letting the chin move toward the chest like we're bowing in? Can we notice that? Can we apply pressure to the palms, asking the upper back and upper body to activate and come into play? Can we lift through the crown of the head and bring the shoulders over the ears and get taller and bigger here initially? To take a nice full breath once again into the belly, letting the chest expand and the rib cage lift toward the thumbs. Make that contraction with your core to help support the exhale. One more breath in just like that. And out just like that. Releasing hands to your lap. Lifting your chin, lifting your eyelids. And if you'd like to make any adjustments to your seat, once again, do so. If you're sitting up on a block, probably all right. Just check in here as we do a side stretch here initially from our seated pose, Sukhasana. Inhale, reaching the arms out wide, expanding beyond the space of your mat. And on the next inhale, as we reach the arms overhead, can we send the shoulders down the back so that they're not rising up with us, but keeping space here between the ears. Let's sit down into the sit bones through the knees. Draw belly button in and up to lengthen the back and get a little taller. And on the next exhale, right hand finds the floor off to the right. Lengthen on the left. Keep grounding into the right hand as you reach and lengthen to the right. Maybe that elbow starts to bend. Maybe that elbow starts to bend and the forearm finds the floor. But keep the left sit bone rooted as you're doing so. And one more piece here. Again, there is a tendency sometimes to start to curl forward. Can you send the right shoulder blade forward, left shoulder blade back? So even as we're stretching here on the side, there's a little bit of a twist to the sky. And turn your left palm up. Let it guide the way as you come back up and overhead. Nice full breath in. On the exhale, left finger pads, left hand finds the floor. Lengthen on the right. Contract through the left side to find yourself in the stretch here initially. Be with yourself and notice how this feels on this side at this point. And if there is a space for you to go further, you can start to bend the elbow more. You can walk the left fingertips a little further away from you. But noticing what starts to happen on the right side. Can you stay grounded? Can you draw the right shoulder blade back, the left shoulder blade forward? Maybe take the gaze up towards the sky. before right palm spins up, leads the way to bring you up. Hands alongside you. You can either cross over the ankles to come into a tabletop position, or you can take feet to one side, hips to the other, however you need to. We won't be here for too long, but if you need the extra support underneath your knees, do so. Good. Find the fingers here spread wide. Point your fingers straight forward. Toes tucked. If you let the head drop for just a second, see that you can't see the toes. So you might need to take the feet just a little bit wider. And rather than lifting the chin, can you rise up through the back of the head? Keep your gaze over the front of the mat, so we're finding neutral here. We're going to play with this a lot through the practice for the neck. And then we're going to turn the fingers away from us. Maybe they're totally away from each other. Maybe that is too much and is just pointer fingers towards the top left and right corner of the mat. And you can move a little bit from left to right, changing the pressure through the palms. You can move forward and back, changing where the pressure is with the palms and the wrists. You can bring those two movements together and make circles with the torso over the center of your mat. So then we get left and right back and forth together. And if you're making these bigger circles, can you reverse once or twice? And if you're reversing, slowly make your way back to stillness. Oh, this didn't come on. Weird. And on the next inhale, either walk both knees and feet toward the back of the mat to find tabletop from the hips down, down dog from the hips up, also known as puppy pose. Breathing into the mid-back, lifting through the back of the head a little bit so that the biceps continue to frame out the ears. You can always return to this. This is a great alternative to down dog if down dog presents too much discomfort in other parts of your body. For those of you who would like to rise to down dog, you can walk the hands back just a little bit and make your way back to down dog. Pedaling through both legs. As we're bending the one leg, the focus here is how much are we stretching the other leg? And a lot through like stretching the back sides of the legs today. And on your next exhale, if you're pedaling through the legs, let both heels get heavy. Find an even-ish stretch through the backs of both legs. Heels are heavy without necessarily touching. Inner thighs are pressing back. You might notice the heels push wider when you do so. Strengthen here through the core. Lift a little bit through the chin. And on the next inhale, get really high up on the heels. Walk, step, hop, or jump to the top of your mat for Uttanasana. We'll focus a little bit more on that after we move through a sun salutation, but just find your first here, deeper forward fold. And on the inhale, either a little bit of bend to the knees and to the hips and strengthen through the core to roll up through the spine, or inhale, rise through chair. Two options, different energy. Let it stand down into both feet. Send the hips back a little bit more. Lift a little bit more through the heart. A little taller in your chair. And on the next inhale, pushing down through the feet, come to stand, tall mountain with the palms forward. Lift the heels away from the floor if you would like to. On the exhale, let the heels find the floor. Release hands down by your side. Pinky fingers hug toward the outer legs. So you get this broadness here through the upper torso. I'll move through a sun salutation B. On the inhale, reach up, rise up and lengthen. Little bend to the knees. Can you maintain length through the spine, hinging from the hips, reaching forward, folding in. Inhale, coming just enough to step one foot back and then the other for plank. As always, knees can be down in plank. Knees can be down for your transition, if that makes it more stable from plank to the floor. On the exhale, first one, all the way to the floor. Untuck the toes. Heart reaches forward. Toes press down. Elbows reach back. Shoulders are heavy. Good. You can curl up a little bit more here. You can turn this into Sphinx pose instead, if that feels better on your body at this point. Good. On the exhale, come back down to the floor. Tuck the toes. Some people will choose to lift up through table into down dog. You're more than welcome to do that. If press through the left heel, lift the right leg here on the floor, push up through three-legged plank, back to three-legged dog. And on the exhale, take a big step forward with that right leg. Good. You can stay low to the floor here with hands supporting. We're certainly wanting to focus a little bit, at least initially, on how it feels to have belly and thigh closer or connecting. On the inhale, if you would like to, reaching the hands forward, finding more of your fire, your core energy. Stand through that right leg to rise up into your crescent. Good. Feet hug to center. Shorten that distance by ever so slightly. Hug the thighs to center. Good. Exhale. Frame it out. Take a big step back to down dog. And on your next inhale, come forward to plank once more. You can take Sphinx. You can take Cobra. You can choose to come into Chaturanga Dandasana, low plank, shoulders lifting away from the floor. Untuck the toes in your Chaturanga to rise to your up dog. Maybe you're in Cobra. And exhale back to Chaturanga. If you're an up dog, back to the floor otherwise. Lift the right knee. Let the left leg float or lift and either rise up through three-legged plank to three-legged down dog or through your table to your down dog like on the other side. Then take a big step forward with the left foot. And stay low to the floor to start. If it feels right for you, reach the hands forward. Core work as you push down into the left leg to rise up for your crescent lunge. Good. As we sit a little lower or deeper. On the next exhale, frame it out. Step back to down dog. Some people may choose to stay in down dog. You might take tabletop or child's pose or move through the flow. 3 breaths. Inhale to plank. Exhale to chaturanga or the floor. Inhale to back bend of choice. Exhale back to chaturanga or the floor. Inhale back through table or plank to down dog to join everyone who is not moving through the flow. And on the next inhale, lift the heels really high. Walk, step, hop, or jump to the top of your mat. Halfway lift. A little bit more focus here on the backs of the legs. We'll get more into that in a second. But come onto finger pads. Maybe it's hands to shins. Maybe it's hands to thighs. We're leaning into the hands as the hands push back. And on the next exhale, with the elbows reaching toward the sky or hugging toward midline, start to fold in. The hands can start to move down the legs. And on the next exhale, bend the knees deeply, chair pose, or any other variation that might be right for you. A little deeper in your chair if you've got it. Good. And on the inhale, stand through the feet. Get tall. Exhale, come back to mountain pose. 3 breaths. You can have your hands by your side. Maybe you bring hands to heart center and something more like Samastiti. A return to the reminder of self-reverence. Good. Next, inhale. Bring your hands back to your, we'll do it in a second. Let's bring our blocks in front of us first. Then we'll come back to our mountain pose. Good. Inhale to reach up. A little bend to the knees again. Keep that length through the spine as you hinge from the hips. To bring hands on blocks, shoulders over wrists. You can adjust the blocks wherever you need to. You want to feel more weight into the hands and the balls of the feet. You want the heels to be grounded but not lifting. Some of us will stay here, and over the course of the next several breaths, the elbows will start to bend wider. We're hugging shoulder blades onto the back, so it's heart leading the way as we fold forward. That is one option. Other option here is finding your contracting here through the core, finding your fire once again in this half forward fold position, reaching your hands wide, coming into cactus arms here with this funny L shape that we're making. Interlace the hands behind the head. Let the head push back up into the hands as the palms close around the back of the head. As the head keeps pushing up, the hands try drawing the crown of the head more toward the front of the room. You'll notice the shoulders start to descend as you do so. Oh, nice, everyone. We got everyone in this. Head keeps pushing up. Maybe there's a bend to the knees if you need to. But use your core to draw you further into the forward fold. Don't let gravity draw the head down faster. It's going to want to. There's a little resistance here as you fold in a little bit more. If it gets to a point where it does not feel right for you, pause there, back up, release the hands. And for those of you who are still here with hands behind the head, we're going to push the head into the hands, and now we're going to resist gravity as we slowly come up, but with a bend to the knees and strong through the core. So we're looking out for the low back as we rise back up. And you can send arms overhead. Exhale down by your sides. Felt all right on people's necks? Lots of core work, yes. Holding us up, all right. We're going to put a lot of this together. I mentioned about plow pose. Keeping neutral through the neck here is, we always want to be looking out for the neck, right? But a lot of times we're like throwing the head back instead of lifting the head, or instead of chin coming forward, we're throwing the head forward. And if our head is, and our cervical spine is not in good alignment when we come into something like shoulder stand or plow pose, we're putting even more stress into the neck area. There's a reason why we have the phrase pain in the neck. We don't need yoga to be that. We have other things in our life that are doing that. So we'll keep playing with that through our different sequences here. We're going to come back into chair pose. On the inhale, reach up. Exhale, sit back and down. So we have a couple of options here in moving through this. You can keep your feet hips width distance. You're going to take a smaller twist if you're doing so. As we twist to one side, it's going to be elbow to same side knee. You get to keep both feet down. That's going to be your support. You can bring your feet closer together, and then the elbow that you're twisting away from, or the elbow that's leading the way, is going to the outer opposite knee instead of the inside same side knee. Those are two options. Third option is figure four with the twist, because we just keep adding stuff. So you have those first two options if you would like to take. I will guide us through the figure four, and if there's some other support that people would like for the other variations, I'll give them. So sit back and down into your chair. Hands can be on hips if that feels more stabilizing. Ground down into the right foot, lift the left heel, lift the left foot. Good, hug left knee to chest, knee opens wide, ankle onto thigh. Pause there first. If you would like to go further here, adding the twist. We haven't done a lot of twists yet, so it doesn't need to be deep. Right hand takes left heel. Reach left arm to the sky. Find all of this length here on the left side. And as you draw down like you're doing a pull up, elbow moves to the inside arch of the left foot. Right hand finds its way into the left hand, maybe. And because we can always make things trickier in yoga, there's a tendency to want to spin around that standing leg. Can you keep the right hip hugging back and down? Can you keep the left knee heavy and down? And on the inhale, if you're in figure four, twist, come out of it. Maybe come into a modified Padangusthasana A for the transition. Nice with the spreading your wings, sweet. Inhale to reach the arms up. On the exhale, take a big step back. I don't know what's behind me. Big step back, finding yourself in crescent. And on your crescent, an easier twist. Left hand to the floor, right hand to the sky. Deep lunge through that front knee. You can keep right hand reaching to the sky, or like we were doing in our forward fold here, you can bring the right hand to the back of the head, supporting the head. Not letting gravity draw the left ear to the floor. Not trying to bring the right ear to touch the right shoulder. Nice. And on the next inhale, if you have your hand behind the head, reach it back up to the sky for a second. And on the exhale, bring both hands to the inside of this front leg. Walk it a little bit wider on the mat like Uttan Prasthasana or lizard lunge. Focusing here some on shoulder to elbow, more on that back leg. If you need to bring it down, you absolutely have every right in the world to do so. You have that permission for yourself. We are focusing on the back of the legs though. You can come down to the knee to relax or to rest if you need to. But for a moment, can you push out through the left heel, lift through the inner left thigh, and find this deeper stretch through the back body. And again, checking in with the head. Is the head just collapsing forward? Can you bring your gaze over the edge of your mat? And for anybody who would like to, you can bring that back knee down, come out of the lunge just a little bit. Bring your right hand behind and outside your right foot. Take your left hand to the outside of your mat on the left side. Maybe left knee lifts once again, re-bend into that right knee. Maybe right hand lifts away from the floor, pulling you a little closer to the floor. You can turn the palm away from you. You can bring that back to the right hand to the low back on the right side. You can come onto left fingertips. You can lift the left hand. You can also turn it to the sky. Bring left hand to the low back on the left side. And on the inhale, whenever you're ready, come back to lizard. There's a lot of extra pieces to that one. And take a big step back to down dog. Adjust the hands, adjust the feet. Notice how it feels on that side. I'll do the same thing on the second. Not a flow just yet. Inhale till you get really high through the heels. Walk, step, hop, or jump to the top of your mat. But inhale, halfway lift. Finding that neutral through the neck, even without the hands, or you can bring that to it, your hands to the head to support, as always. And on the next exhale, bend the knees deeply. We'll either come both arms overhead. For those of you who are in Uttanasana here with hands behind the head, your chair can look just like that as well. Second side. Put weight into the left foot in your chair. Lift the right heel, lift the right foot. Draw right knee to chest. Find the hip opener on the right side, ankle into thigh, foot stays flexed. And this is for everyone who's coming to the twisted figure four chair. If that was not what we were taking on the other side, come out of your figure four. But once you find your stability in figure four, bring left hand to right knee or right heel. Reach right arm up and overhead, bicep alongside the ear. Find all this length on the right side. And on the exhale, as you curl in and cross over the midline, the right elbow find the arch of the left foot. Maybe the left hand finds the right hand. And you stay heavy in that left hip. Keep the right knee reaching wide rather than forward. Good. Inhale and exhale for depth. Next inhale, come out of your twist, whichever variation you find yourself in. You can come to mountain to stand if you need to catch your breath and your balance for a second. Otherwise, it's modified Panagustasana A. We then hinge from the hips, kick back as you reach forward, landing in your crescent lunge. Good. Hands to the floor to start here. So we can bring right hand down directly underneath right shoulder, left hand to left knee. On the exhale, twist to the left, let left hand reach to the sky. If you need to lower the back knee, do so. If you need to support the head with the left hand, do so. Nice exhale here for the twist. On your next inhale, you're going to start to unwind. Both hands find the space inside that left foot. Walk it a little wider. You can bring the right knee down to support yourself as you set up for your lizard. And if, when, as ready, press through the right heel, lift through the inner right thigh. Let the heart reach forward. So we're about to make ourselves smaller. We didn't do this on the other side. We're about to make ourselves smaller. Can we press the hands down and isometrically draw them back toward the back of the mat so our heart and chest opens and expands a little bit more forward? Then maybe, if you're getting into the pretzel today, back knee lowers down, come out of the lunge a little bit so you can bring the left hand behind and to the outside of the left foot. Right hand goes a little wider. Back knee lifts again, maybe. Left hand lifts away from the floor, maybe. Feel how that pulls you toward the floor. Turn the palm to the sky. Bend the elbow to bring it to the low back on the left side. Maybe come onto right fingertips. Maybe right hand lifts. Maybe palm turns away and meets or matches, mirrors the left on the other side. And on the inhale, as you're ready, come back to your lizard. Step back to your down dog. We're going to find ourselves seated for just a second here. If you would like to move through a flow, do so. Otherwise, settle in table or child's pose. Inhale forward to plank. Exhale to Chaturanga Dandasana or the floor for Pranam. Inhale for Bhujangasana, Cobra pose, or Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, up dog. Exhale back to your starting point. Settle into down dog. And then we'll catch up with everyone else as we come forward to plank, knees to the floor. Either feet to one side, hips to the other, or again, cross over the ankles or shins. With your legs out, extended out in front of you. You flush away from the sit bones. Let the sit bones move back so you can feel the pelvic bone and the torso tilting forward just a little bit. But come onto fingertips behind you. Elbows hug the center, so we're finding this lift and expansiveness here again. And just notice how it feels or what's happening in the low back as you get heavier through the inner thighs, more active through the toes. Good, Dandasana, staff pose. On the next exhale, I'm going to place a little bit of a bend to both knees. Let the heels come in a bit. Take the knees wide, bring the soles of the feet to touch for Baddha Konasana. Thumbs with your fingers, take hold of the fronts of your ankles or shins. Draw shoulders on the back. There's a little bit of a forward fold motion happening. And you can make butterfly flaps here with the knees if you need more time, more warmth, more movement to open the hips a little bit more. Two things for people going into forward folds. If there is part of your practice and you feel like your hips are in a good spot right now, we're lifting heart forward As we bend through the elbows, maybe the elbows connect to the thighs, pushing them down and opening a little bit more here. But keep the chin lifting for a bit as you fold in. Let the big toe ball mounds come apart if that makes the forward fold more accessible for you. And we're going to be here for about 5 breaths, so I can talk us through the next piece. So you might stop here. If you need to back up at any point, you can. If you'd like to go further, something toward Kurmanasana or tortoise pose, you're going to lift the right knee a little bit away from the floor, take the right hand underneath the right shin, and walk it forward. So you have like shin on top of forearm. Lift the left knee a little bit, snake that left forearm underneath the left shin. And now as the elbows, or as the knees push wide and down, it starts to draw us a little deeper into the forward fold here in our Baddha Konasana. Can we keep our gaze just over the toes rather than letting the head collapse? And if you're in Kurmanasana here, palms, forearms press down, hug back toward the hips. So again, there is this lift and lengthening and expansion through the upper body, and as we're making ourselves very tight and compact here. We are probably way past 5 breaths. On the inhale, let the knees get a little lighter so you can unsnake the arms from underneath you. Come back up onto the hands, extend the legs out in front of you, once again into Dandasana. Good, from Dandasana to boat pose here, or Navasana. So we're going to bend the knees once again, but we're going to keep the heels down, toes lifting. You can come onto the fingertips behind you. You can reach the hands in front of you. You can support yourself however you might need to. Rather than shoulders off the back, hug on to the back so the heart is reaching forward. The heart keeps reaching forward while the knees now hug to the chest. Thighs are hugging to center. Feet are active. Push the heels away from each other a little bit. On the inhale, maybe lift shins parallel to the floor. You can start to reach the hands a little bit more upright if you would like to. Maybe push out through the heels. Let the inner thighs get heavy. Again, another opportunity for both legs to stretch through the back. I see someone smiling in the back doing this. I'm super excited about that. Exhale, heels to the floor. Hands alongside you. Let both knees descend to one side. Inhale to center. Exhale to the other side. And inhale to center. Exhale one more time on each side. Next time you inhale to center. You can pause for 3 breaths in a seat if you would like to. You can cross over the ankles, move through a vinyasa flow. Ultimately, as we finish our vinyasa flow, we're all going to take our opportunity to move to the walls here in a second. So from your down dog to your plank, towards your lowering to the floor or toward the floor sequence. From a down dog, hop, jump, step forward if you're completing the vinyasa. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to fold in. Inhale to halfway lift. Exhale once more to fold in. And you can roll up the spine. You can rise through chair, reverse swan dive, whatever feels right for you. Settling into your mountain pose. And then we will collect our things and move to the walls. So while people are getting some of your things together, I've mentioned we're working toward some stuff with the possibility of shoulder stand, halasana. There's probably going to be fewer people doing halasana than shoulder stand. Probably the entire class will not be doing shoulder stand. We have options along the way, though, including Vipariti Karani, where we are just laying on our back with a block underneath the sacrum, legs to the sky. You can use the wall for that as well as one possibility. We'll see where everyone is for that, but that is definitely one really good possibility, sorry. For when we come into Halasana pose, or the possibility of that, there are two options for that, and the alternative for that is Paschimottanasana, or a forward fold. Is everybody familiar with all the words I just were spitting out? Vipariti Karani, or legs up against the wall. Everyone's familiar with that one? Yes. Everyone is familiar with, and it doesn't mean you practice it or you want to do it, but familiar with what shoulder stand is and what plow pose is, Halasana? All right, cool. So we'll see where everybody wants to be with these things. We're going to start here first, though, with having our strap and having a seat once again with our legs out long. Strap, I said I need one myself. Good. You can bring the legs to touch. Move flush away from the sit bones. You can also very intentionally take both hands to one thigh, lean to the opposite side, intentionally spin the inner thigh in and wide, and do that for the second side if that felt like it made more space through the low back. Take your strap, have your strap around the balls of the feet rather than the arches of your feet. Let the strap be as loose as you need to feel like you are in Dandasana pose. Ears over shoulders, heart forward, shoulders over hips. Good. If that is really difficult to do, if you're finding yourself leaning back or like it feels like the low back is not curving in but curving out, place a little bend to the knees, hug the knee, press the knee, bend to the knees, press the heels down, hug heels to sit bones, and that will give you a little bit more lift. And over time, you may get to a space today or in another class where you're lowering the inner thighs once again. Just like in our Baddha Konasana, draw shoulder blades onto the back to start. There's already a little bit of a forward fold motion happening. As we keep lifting through the heart, we start to bend the elbows a little bit wide, a little bit down toward the floor to draw yourself forward. You can walk the hands down the straps. You can take your hands to the edges of your feet, however it might be. Our focus, though, rather than head to knee or chest to thigh or wherever it's going to reach, is focusing on the stretch through the back of the legs. As I mentioned, this will be the alternative for some people when Halasana is the possibility for others. Just noticing how it is through the backs of the legs where you start to feel tension. If there's stuff with the low back, like I said, do place a little bend to the knees. Make the legs more active to look out for the upper part of your body. And on the inhale, slowly come up. Where you start to loosen here your grip on the strap as you rise up. Take both legs wide, like Upavista Konasana. Heels press down, toes reach to the sky. Come onto finger pads, lift through the heart here. Again, a little bend to the knees can help. Trying to bring the legs to touch will also fire up things through the hips, through the low back to look out for you. On the exhale, you can push hands off of or down and away from you to hinge forward a little bit. You can also walk the hands forward. Just be mindful if the hands are walking forward, does that deep rounded like cat shape through the back start to happen? Or can you reach the hands forward as you stay lifting through the heart? The only way that I get into this deeper, you can, if you like to, take hands to take hold of the shins or the ankles or yogic toe lock, in which case we have to find that bend to the elbows once again to draw us further forward. I'm just going to take 3 more breaths here. And on your next inhale, slowly come up. Bring both legs a little bit forward, not complete to where they were. Bring your right leg in even more. Find Sukhasana on your right leg. Have the left knee bent a little bit, foot to the floor. We're going to do a Heron's pose just as one more opportunity here to stretch through the back of the legs. You can start once again here with strap around the ball of the foot. You can start immediately with taking hold of the foot with your hands. That is about your proportions. Come to sit a little bit more upright, heart forward. Knee is about as close as it's going to get for right now. Can you unbend the knee a little bit to lift through the foot? Notice how this feels. For the next 3 breaths, on each inhale, you're going to press through the heel. On the exhale, you're going to let the inner thigh get heavier. Draw the foot a little closer to the head. Press through the heel, let the inner thigh get a little heavier. Draw the shin a little closer to the head. One more time, just like that. A little closer to the head might mean ½ an inch. It might mean 1 millimeter. It might mean I just exhaled and released, and this feels a little bit more comfortable without moving any closer. And on the exhale, release that foot to the floor. Extend both legs out once more. Take both feet wide, maybe a little wider if you would like to, maybe a little less wide if you would like to. Inhale, reach the arms up and overhead. Interlace the hands behind the head once again. Head pushes into hands. Hands try drawing up while the shoulder blades move down. Maybe we all of us start here with a little bit more of a bend to the knees. Find your inner strength here through your core. And on the exhale, hinging from the hips rather than rounding to come forward. Send heart forward, keep your gaze lifted a little bit. Maybe push out through the heels, let the inner thighs get heavier as the head keeps pushing up and the hands keep lengthening through the spine. And maybe on one more exhale, you fold in a little deeper. Head leads the way as you rise up on the in-breath. And release your hands down by your side. Bring your legs straight out in front of you once again. Left leg comes into Sukhasana. Right heel starts to come in a bit closer. Strap around the ball of the foot. Maybe take hold of both sides of the foot. I'd find that little bit of a forward tilt through the pubic bone. Tall like in mountain pose, even as we're contracting in weird ways here. And on the inhale, unbend the knee a little bit to bring the shin parallel to the floor. And on your next inhale, as you press out through the heel, let the inner thigh get heavy, draw shin closer. Inhale, press out through the heel, inner thigh heavy, exhale to draw in a little closer. One more time, whatever deeper means for you. And on the exhale, bring a bend back to that knee. Release that foot back down to the floor. Extend out through both legs, shake things out. All right, we're coming up to the bigger part here. We're going to have options for this. Let's see, I can not play with the conduit over here. So we're going to take our bridge pose facing, or feet facing the wall as a start. Some people have no issue with coming up into their shoulder stand, Salamba Shirshasana. If you're new to it, if you're just checking it out, if you know that you need support and the wall is really helpful, the first thing you're going to do, I don't have my props here. You can either take your blanket and open it once and fold it so it's a little bit of it's a smaller crease, and you're going to lay on the blanket with the rounded folded part coming right to the top of the shoulders. That will give the body some lift and really be mindful about keeping the neck off of the floor. And you can have that same setup even if you're just here to do bridge pose. But like bridge and shoulder stand, we don't want to turn our head from side to side once we're up in it. We want head pressing down, neck lifting, shoulder blades pressing down. For those of you who are new to this or using the wall here to explore, once you're in your bridge, one foot comes up, other foot comes up. Press into the wall through the feet like you're doing bridge pose with a 90-degree angle here. Hands can find the low back, and you can stay here and play with one, play with other. You can have both up. What we want to be mindful of is if you have both legs off the wall, we're not just letting gravity do the work and start to drag the feet overhead. That puts a lot of pressure on the neck. So we want to try and stay as upright as possible. You have two options here. I'll give all of these cues when we're in it, including lowering the hips a little further back behind you so that the hips aren't over the shoulders, the feet aren't over the shoulders either. That takes away a little bit of the pressure. If you're interested in coming into Halasana pose, the first option is going to be to bend the knees toward your forehead. You don't have to make the connection to the forehead. You can make the connection to the forehead. That's a great place to be if the feet cannot touch the floor overhead. Because again, we have gravity doing the work here of trying to pull the legs down. And if the rest of the body isn't ready for that, then this is a great place to prepare the back body, the back of the torso, for a deeper Halasana pose later. Ultimately coming to a place where you can extend through the legs, letting the feet find the floor behind you, continuing to support the hands here, or you can reach the hands back. So those are some options, including not doing any of that. Other spaces while you're getting yourself set up. You can stay in bridge. There are a million bridge variations that I can guide you through that you've probably been in other classes that you can do and not do the second part of it. You can take legs up against the wall, as I mentioned. You can play with Paschimottanasana instead of plow pose. Is there anybody who knows in their body that doing shoulder stand or anything moving toward Halasana is definitely not good for you? All right, listen to your bodies more than anything, all right? So we'll start with, for the people who need it, giving yourself some nice padding underneath the shoulders. So instead of this thicker padding, we open it once, we fold it, we have much less here. You want this to be on your back, so it's at like the top of the shoulders. That will give you an extra quarter inch, half inch away from the neck to the floor. And you get a chance to practice that just with coming into bridge here for that. Good. One thing I'm going to ask both of you just to make a change for, unless you have that intentionally, to have the blanket underneath you so that that part there is what are coming up completely, and taking the blanket all the way down your back so that your shoulders come to the top of that part there. Yeah. Yeah, good. So start with bridge pose. Unless you know it, you're practicing, you're moving forward. I'm just making sure everybody here is set up with this all right. You're really close. One thing I had to do for them, if you wanted to, if that feels like you would like that support on the neck, instead of laying on the blanket, have the blanket under the body with this part here coming to the top of your shoulders. So it's like a cape. Yeah. So your head is still touching the mat. Same thing for you. So for those of you who are in bridge, make your bridge good and active. You get to choose to stay here. If you're making use of the wall, one thing you might notice after you start to lift up a little bit is the wall feels really far away, and you can lower down and make a tighter bridge to give more support for the wall. And you have a very slippery mat. I just saw you sliding even with your blanket there. You can walk the feet partway up the wall just like you would be doing in L pose at the wall in a handstand. Good. Once the feet come away from the wall, reach feet to the sky more than feet overhead. Notice how that feels through the neck and the shoulders to start. It's called a shoulder stand. So we're pushing down into the shoulder blades. We're stabilizing with the elbows. Some of you are staying here. I'll come through. I'm just going to give a few more people who might want to move further. You can start to bend the knees down toward your forehead. Connect to your third eye. Notice how it feels. If that feels all right, you can start to extend your heels out to the center of the room. And either hands continue to support the back with the hips a little bit behind the shoulders, or you can extend the arms behind you. Now you have extra support to push hands into the floor. There's no need to stay in this any longer than you need to or want to. So if you're in plow pose, you'll bend the knees once again. Oh, we're all here to play with this. Nice. To the forehead to shoot up to the sky. Keep one leg reaching up to the sky. Let the other leg reach toward the wall so you can stabilize yourself coming out. You were so close. If you want to just roll out of it, you're also good to do that. For those of you who took halasana or plow pose, Matsyasana or fish posture is the counter pose for the neck. I'll give us some cues for that. If you're not familiar with it, you will want to make your space away from the wall. Everybody went to give it a go. Before I guide the rest of us through it, if you are in a space where you can talk, did halasana feel okay? How was the wall for shoulder stand support? All right? Cool, nothing bad. We're setting up for Matsyasana. We find ourselves in mountain pose on our backs. We reach right hand underneath right thigh or butt cheek, left hand under left thigh or butt cheek. We're pushing elbows into the floor to lift the chest away from the floor. Keep neutral through the neck first. Let your crown of your head try to reach to the center of the room. Then let the chin tilt up rather than the head fall back. And as soon as the top of the head finds the floor, push into it to stabilize. Class, if anybody is interested in your fish posture, you can take your hands out from underneath you. You can start to reach your arms toward your feet, and you can lift your legs in something called flying fish. Good. It's a bit like Navasana, but we're in fish posture. And if you're playing with flying fish, you're going to bring your hands back to the floor to support yourself, to lower the legs, to lift through the heart, to bring the back of the head to the floor. And we're not going to come into Shavasana just yet. We have just a few more minutes. Draw both knees into chest. Starting here with Happy Baby. Take your knees as wide as the outer shoulders. You can take hold of the backs of the thighs. You can take hold of the ankles. You can take yogic toe lock. But draw shoulder blades onto the back to bring knees a little closer. And everyone's already in the space of moving back and forth. That's great. Massage out the back body. You can choose to come to stillness and deepen by continuing to draw knees toward outer shoulders. Or you can release a little bit, so you can bring knees to touch at your heart, bend the knees deeply. You can take forearms over the shins and give yourself a nice big hug in something called Upasana. Same thing, you can rock back and forth. You can change the closeness or distance from knees to chest to rock and roll over different parts of the back body. We have a few moments here for an alternative to Shavasana. If you're familiar with, if you would like to take something like heart bench, I can come around. Anyone who wants to do heart bench, I can bring you a bolster. But you're going to start with one block, medium or highest medium or highest height. And bring a bolster. Actually, it would be medium height and lowest height, I think. Maybe that's a thing. Does anyone need bolsters or want bolsters? One? Two? Anyone else? Just two? All right. There you are. You're welcome. Here you are. Nice. Good. Keep your heels right where they are and wheel. Just walk your big toes just a little bit closer. Yes. Nice. there are other poses you find yourself in before coming to Shavasana, just take about 6 or 7 breaths so that you do have and make space for rest. As you settle into stillness and the breath naturally slows, the mind and body may move with the breath. The mind may move opposite of the breath and become more active. And you let the breath be your anchor into each moment here in Shavasana to find stillness. Maybe a return to this question here of why we make ourselves small or too flexible sometimes. Maybe a space to reflect with curiosity on the ways that you explore that in your body today, in a space where you have complete agency over yourself. And I use that language with curiosity very intentionally, so that this can be a grounding space and a grounding portion of your practice, so that whatever you are, whatever is meeting you when you leave your mat today, you can greet it with some certainty, some centeredness. We have the ability to direct and influence change when we can be present and grounded and responsive rather than reactionary. That is something that we are not often taught to do. It is something that society often does not ask us or want us to do. Each moment you ground yourself in you and in your curiosity and can respond, you are being a hell of a rebel. Let your next inhale be deeper than the last. And your next inhale, deeper still. If you're up on props, be mindful of them. If there are any movements that you start to make, Those of you who are on the floor without props, make your little movements, make bigger movements. Bring the legs to touch and reach the arms overhead. Inhale and exhale. And inhale once more, with the next exhale being another opportunity to draw knees to chest. Because we're all facing the wall, rather than rocking and rolling up to have a seat and greeting the wall, you can roll off to one side. And with your eyes closed, feel into facing the front of the room or facing the middle of the room. With hands resting wherever they need to, or at heart center once again. Returning to the shape where we started just about an hour ago. An opportunity to check in and to notice the changes that happen through the asana and mindful movement portion of yoga. Continue with the breath and curiosity about yourself if you would like to, or if you'd like to join me in closing out the practice with the sound of one Om, exhaling completely, to inhale deeply. The light in me bows to the light in each of you. Namaste, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming out today. Like I said, there's only one class on the schedule tomorrow. Alyssa's teaching at 10:30. I don't have the specifics on it. I believe it's a 75-minute class. I believe it might be available virtually. If you're interested and available, sign up, and whatever options are, go for it. Things are back to normal on Friday, whatever counts as normal. I mentioned about the Race Street Pier, still continuing here every Monday and Thursday at 6, Monday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Our teachers there, as well as Sunday at 10 a.m. I teach on Monday evening as well, so there's always a class happening, even if the weather doesn't permit. I understand there are free things out there, and so for everyone who is able to make it and is interested in coming into class on Monday here with me, I very much appreciate it. I know there are other options. The 50-hour yoga immersion, which ties into the 200-hour teacher training with Anisha and Adriana, begins on September 27th. There's an application, there's an interview, there's some information online for all of that. If you're interested in it, even going all the way through the 200 hours but not becoming a teacher, totally fine. Those are things that are coming up at the end of summer. There's a couple of other things happening here. There's a prenatal training on the weekend, the 13th, next weekend, not this weekend. The weekend after that, there's the Foundations of Teaching Beginners Yoga with Eric that's available. Be well, stay safe, have a great 4th of July. If everybody was playing with, interested, seemed getting into shoulder stand. It was a part of my very first yoga class that I took at a gym. Probably not the smartest, but it was there. And when I moved to a studio, it was probably 5 months before I ever had a class that even led into shoulder stand. So it's something I love. If it's something that everyone here really likes, I am happy to really make that a very consistent part of the practice. Certainly a couple more classes like this where I'm guiding people through who are newer to it or unsure about it. But I love shoulder. I would do shoulder stand every day if I could, and I had the time for it. So that's something I'm thinking about adding a little bit more. So thank you everybody for coming today. Have a great 4th of July, good holiday weekend. Be well, stay safe, and stay cool again because we need to do that. You're welcome.
I'm going out of town, so I won't see you in person for a few weeks.
All right, where are you heading off to? Oh, you're the 4th person in the past week who said they're going to Puerto Rico. I was like, why am I not there? Have a great time. Oh, no dashboard, that's what I'm looking for. Hey, sign out. Sweet.